Hello friends, a very warm welcome to UnSarkari. I am Vikas Bhardwaj. Taking up important topic themes and such complex issues which are important for both prelims, mains, personality test and even whatever optionals you are having except some technical options which is going to really help you in systematizing your thinking process and also getting the best out of you per moment, per minute, or you can say per sitting. It is in this connection we are picking up this very important topic in a holistic way, which is very important for general studies, political science, and international relations, public administration, anthropology, sociology, and even certain elements with respect to modern Indian history. Evolution of Panchayati Raj system in India in the pre-liberalization era, or what you mean to say, from independence till the 73rd constitutional amendment. Why? Because it is a testament. It is a testament to India's commitment to democracy, the quest for grassroots democracy and for rural governance. So, what we are going to see, the patchwork kind of things, state level experiments, and how it will be constitutionally enshrined. Three-tier system will come into practice by 1992. So, what we are going to focus upon, institutional adaptation, political contestation, and social transformation. I'm repeating these three key terms: institutional adaptation, political contestation, and finally, what we are using is social transformation, because this is not something which is going to happen in a unilateral way. That is why I am giving you an overview that the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, which is known as Panchayati Raj Act, was not a sudden innovation, but it was culmination of decades of policy debates, committees, recommendations, experiments, and so forth. So this lecture will focus upon the evolution of PRI. Looking forward to data, case studies, role of civil society, bureaucracy, Ministry of Rural Development, what have been written in magazines like Kurukshetra, Yojana, and even certain perspectives which have been there in the newspapers. So the pre-independence route and constitutional framing is very important to understand, because these roots even go back to the time period of, say, Lord Ripon. And even if I say, when we call Lord Ripon as father of local self-government in India, then it is a misnomer, because we had local self-government and its traces even in Vedic times, and forth on Buddhist traditions reflect the same. So, ancient origins, panchayats, council of elders, it existed in Indian villages. As I told you, local administrative and judicial bodies were there. In colonial times, look, Bengal Chowkidari Act, very important for the prelims. Ripon Resolution, as I just said, Government of India Act 1919 and 1935, but they were limited in scope and dominated by elites. So Mahatma Gandhi ji believed that Gram Swaraj, or the village self-rule, is the key to India's development. Whereas Dr. B.R. Ambedkar believed that there must be element of racialism, there must be elements of systematic constitutional principles. Otherwise, these traditional panchayats, which are the den of caste and gender exclusion, cannot bring Viksit Bharat. Therefore, the compromise was there with Article 40 in the DPSP. It was urging states to organize village panchayats as unit of self-government, but without making a justiciable right. So you know why it was not part of fundamental rights, but it is only part of DPSP. So there are concerns, as I just said the word, there is contestation, but there is an element of social justice. When we speak about early post-independence initiatives, then from 1947 to 1958, there was constitutional ambiguity in the beginning, because Article 40 is encouraging states, okay, but the details would be seen by the states itself. So between 1947 to 50, several states enacted their own panchayat acts, and there will be variation in structure and function. For example, if we see case study, UP Panchayat Act 1947. Single tier system with Gaon Sabha, or you can say village assembly, and Gaon Panchayat, that is executive. All adult voters members of Gaon Sabha. Gaon Panchayat had some elected members. So functions would be, as you know, public works, sanitation, education, healthcare, local markets. And there will be caste based voting. There will be exclusion of women and some other groups, and there will be limited participation. These are the challenges which we are seeing. We are seeing example of UP Panchayat Act 1947. Now, again, another case study if we see of the Assam Panchayat Act 1948, it was a two-tier system, primary panchayat or a rural panchayat, which is a subdivisional level. Functions remain tax collection, communication, economic development, and self-sufficiency. Ecological factors, Assam's difficult terrain and heavy rainfall influence emphasis on local self-sufficiency. So rather than thinking of something very idealistic, something very broad and mainstream, every area within Assam would be looking forward to how to self-sustain in adverse circumstances, including communication infrastructure. If we say Madhya Bharat Panchayat Act 1949, three-tier system they went on to see. So Gram Panchayat, Kendra Panchayat, a new word is introduced, and Mandal Panchayat, that is district. Even if you see the bureaucracy, IAS officers, when they are posted after selection, then they also start from the lower level, and there is an important role to be played by the group of, you can say, panchayats, or even the subdivisional level. So elections will be at the village level, indirectly at the higher tiers, and that's how uh, the states which came out of princely states, for example, Madhya Bharat, or we later on we speak about Madhya Pradesh, they had very limited experience in local governance because they were not part of the British India, they were part of the British princely states. Now let's see the Community Development Program of 1952 and the National Extension Service of 1953. Very important for the prelims and even a short note comment type question in the mains. The Community Development Program was launched on 2nd October 1952, followed by National Extension Service in 1953. So what they were looking for, holistic rural development. Required was people's participation, decentralized planning, and multi-sectoral activities. So there will be coming up of CDB, that is community development blocks. So 100 villages around are there in one CDB, became the basic units of planning and implementation, and there will be an officer known as BDO, that is block development officer. So one block development officer is actually taking care, or is responsible for around 100 villages. But over reliance on bureaucracy, limited actual empowerment of PRIs, and lack of genuine community participation. Over reliance on bureaucracy. Yes, definitely no other structure was there. And limited actual empowerment means the PRIs were not made self-sufficient. The PRI was not uh, allowed to be trained, and they were not becoming self-dependent in terms of finance, in terms of projects, and so forth. So this went on to bring some disappointing results. Balwant Rai Mehta Committee came in 1957, and three-tier model was adopted. That is Gram Panchayat, Panchayat Samiti, that is block, and Zilla Parishad, that is district. Still it is there. So elections direct at the village level, indirectly at the higher level. Devolution of functions related to agriculture, health, education, and communication. PRI is to be integrated with community development blocks. And obviously district collector, Zilla Parishad, as I just told you some moments back, he is going to be the head of Zilla Parishad. So this is the blueprint. The committee's recommendations were accepted by National Development Council, and it became a blueprint for rest of the states also. So what we can emphasize over here is that the Panchayat Samiti was envisioned as a key executive body, and Zilla Parishad as advisory and supervisory body at the higher level. So Balwant Rai Mehta committee institutionalized the idea of democratic decentralization. If you write in your answer, it is going to definitely fetch you marks for good vocabulary and clarity of thought. Similarly, when we see early state experiments, Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh comes to our mind. In Rajasthan, Nagaur, 1959, the question have come up directly in the prelims. It is very important, can come up again. First implementation was done in Rajasthan, and three-tier system inaugurated by the Prime Minister Honorable Nehruji on 2nd October 1959. Emphasized on Panchayat Samiti as key planning and executive body, Zilla Parishad as supervisory and advisory role. Andhra Pradesh adopted three-tier model with modifications, coordination between tiers, and integration with development departments. So other states also followed with significant variations. Some adopted two-tier, others adopted three-tier, and then power was also devolved differently in different areas. So what we can take away? We can take away from this understanding that there was lack of uniformity, which reflects India's federal diversity. Very important. You must write in your notes. Federal diversity. So decline of PRIs is the time period of 1960s to 1970s. The causes and indicators, if we see, then centralization is the one of the factors, because bureaucracy and also the power and suggestions coming from the top of the center. This will be especially in Indira Gandhi's leadership time period, and it eroded local autonomy. Bureaucratic dominance is very, very vital factor, because state bureaucracies took over functions which were supposed to be done by PRI. So that means GVK Rao committee said that they are grass without roots. When you say that the PRIs are grassroots bodies, they are basically grasses but without roots. Financial dependence remain on the government, limited capacity to raise their own resources, political interference, because every political party which is in power in the state, they would like their resources, their people, and their clout must only grow. And that is why central government will also try to bring its scheme to the PRIs so that they remain favorable to them. Irregular elections, it was one of the factors. So regular panchayat elections were not done, and emergency went on to see the suspension of democratic institutions. So indicators, what we can see till 1960s and 70s is that initial momentum was there, as we just said. PRI became functionally hollow in many states. Local elites and dominant caste people, they are going to capture panchayat institutions, and marginalized groups will be set aside. 1960s and 70s saw the decline of PRI due to centralization, bureaucratic control, and political apathy, and there is need for structural reform. That is very important. Now, revival and reform time period is post 1977 to 1992. Ashok Mehta Committee, that is why it came up in 1978. This is very important. The sequence that we are following for the prelims, just remember and understand it carefully. If you have any questions, you can just write back to me and we can discuss in person also. 1978, appointed by Janata Party to revitalize decaying Panchayati Raj systems. So two-tier system was to be replaced, because three-tier system uh, was not functioning in a uniform way. So that is why two-tier structure, that is Zilla Parishad district as an executive body, and Mandal Panchayat, that is group of villages, that is 15,000 to 20,000 population, will be there below it. Direct elections at dot level, whether it is Mandal Panchayat level, whether it is Zilla Parishad level. Political parties, formal participation of political parties in PRI elections. For financial autonomy, compulsory taxation power are given to PRIs, constitutional recognition must be given to PRIs, and reservations for SC, ST, and OBCs. So what we can say, it was not even implemented nationally due to the fall of the Janata government of 1978. The recommendation influenced later reforms which are adopted in states like Karnataka and West Bengal. So story continues. GVK Rao committee, as I just referred to just a moment back, in 1985, appointed by the Planning Commission to review the administrative arrangements for rural development and poverty alleviation. The goal is again to make India move on with holistic growth and development. So district must be seen at the planning unit. Zilla Parishad is very pivotal body for democratic decentralization. Regular elections must be there to PRIs. District Development Commissioner, as is the chief executive officer of Zilla Parishad, that is an IS officer, and PRIs to be integrated with development administration. Voluntary agencies, they must be encouraged to participate in rural development. So this is what was going on, and it also influenced seventh five-year plan, which acknowledged the importance of grassroots participation. But Indian democracy, Indian economy, which was more towards role of public sector enterprises, and it was the time period when liberalization, privatization, globalization was not the norm. So you can understand the kind of deficiencies and the kinds of weakness the system was feeling. LM Singhvi Committee in 1986, very important, tasked with preparing a concept paper on revitalizing PRIs for democracy and development. So what it said, explicit recommendation for constitutional recognition, first time given by LM Singhvi Committee. And Gram Sabha, you must write in your answers, it is an embodiment of direct democracy. Independent Election Commission for regular panchayat elections. Nyay Panchayat for local disputes. Financial resources must be given to village panchayats. This is the one which provided blueprint for the 73rd Constitutional Amendment, and the takeaway we can say is the period from 1970s to early 1990s saw a rise of high-level committees advocating structural, financial, and constitutional reforms, and to revive and strengthen PRIs. That is what we start from Balwant Rai Mehta Committee. Now comes to LM Singhvi Committee. So the state level revival and innovation, when we see the Bengal model, late 1970s and 80s, left front government was there, undertook major reforms, holding regular elections, devolving substantial power to local bodies, emphasis on participatory planning, land reforms, and social inclusion. Very important keywords. West Bengal this model became a model for other states and it influenced national debates and decentralization also. Let's see what Karnataka was saying. Two-tier system, post Ashok Mehta committee, significant devolution of powers. Kerala became, a very important state known for its people planning campaign even before 1992. Even today, when we say how such high human development indicators are there in Kerala, that is because of the local self-governments. Assam's trajectories and decline and reform pattern, if we see, then Assam was one of the first to enact Panchayat Act 1948, experiment with the two-tier and later three-tier, political instability, ethnic conflicts, irregular elections. This is all what we have discussed. So the reform was there by the Assam Panchayat Act of 1994. It incorporated 73rd Amendment provisions, reviving the system. Madhya Bharat, when we say again, it adopted a three-tier system 1949, and we just said, and then Madhya Pradesh Act 1962. Post 1992, Madhya Pradesh became the first state to implement 73rd Amendment Act, establishing Gram Swaraj in 2000. Very important for the prelims. So the state level innovations and revivals demonstrated the potential PRIs when backed by political will and administrative support. So what we can say is that in 1989, 64th Amendment Bill during Rajiv Gandhi's time passed in Lok Sabha, failed in Rajya Sabha due to concerns over centralization and state autonomy. So this is a very important keyword over here. New bill VP Singh government introduced but lapsed due to government fail. Then 1991 72nd Amendment Bill PV Narasimha Rao introduced, withdrawn for further revision. Then 73rd Amendment Bill passed and ratified, come into force 24th April 1993. That is what is very important for us to know. So the parliamentary debates were there when these things happened because the concerns were there by opposition parties and some states, because if you constitutionalize PRIs, then what will happen to the state autonomy? State is very important. If you give more power to PRI, then what will happen to the states? So consensus building is reflected in the 73rd Amendment Act, and any kind of controversial provisions and also the ideas which were making states insecure were taken away. So the path to constitutionalizing Panchayati Raj was marked by political contestation, negotiation, and eventual consensus. That is what I said in the beginning of the lecture also. So the 73rd Amendment Act, if we see the key provisions, they became justiciable part of the Constitution. Part 9, very important. Remember forever, 243 article 243 to 243O, and the population under 2 million. Okay, they could skip the intermediate tier when we speak about the village, the intermediate block, and the district level. The three things are there. This is very important. Three-tier structure: village level, block level, district level. Regular elections every 5 years conducted by the independent state election commission, and one-third seats will be reserved for women, and chairperson positions will also be reserved for women. SC/ST proportional reservation based on population. Backward states empowered to provide additional reservations. This is very important and a dynamic step. So every state is not going to follow a same type of model. Every state is empowered to take their own decisions and help their PRI to grow. Rajya Sabha also is also going to give its own suggestions, and that is how uh, Gram Sabha was supposed to be a deliberative body at the village level. State Finance Commission was set up to review and recommend financial position of PRI every 5 years, though in reality, still the UPSC asked questions that how PRI can, increase their financial autonomy and increase their financial resources. We will discuss about it separately. So 29 subjects in the list in the 11th schedule, including agriculture, rural housing, drinking water, health, education, and poverty alleviation were part of it. And courts were barred from interfering into panchayat election or panchayat electoral matters except via election petitions. So very standard and a smart work. So what we can say, State Election Commission is going to conduct and supervise panchayat elections, and it is independently of the state government. So no interference of the state government or political party ruling it. Finance Commission reviews PRI financing and recommends revenue and sharing and grants also, and Gram Sabha approves plans, budgets, and social audits at the village level. So role of bureaucracy and civil society is very important to understand here. Bureaucracy, BDO, very important, functionary at the block level, responsible for implementing development schemes. District collectors, as I just said, they are going to be the one who are going to give advice and to thought-provoking ideas and so forth. Challenges: bureaucratic resistance to devolution, fear of loss of control, lack of capacity building for PRI representatives. You want to do something, you want to raise certain product to a level, you want to sell some agriculture produce, you want to make your village a very important destination for fair. How you're going to do this? So we know that the committees like GV Rao committee, they recommended redefining bureaucratic role, and they wanted it should be supportive in nature rather than dominating. So awareness and capacity building in that role of civil society will also be there. PRI rights and also women and marginalized groups. Now today we speak about Drone Didi, today we speak about Lakpati Didi, today we speak about one district, one product. So all these things are only possible because of the great role to be played by the village bodies. Social reform movements will also be successful in states like Maharashtra, West Bengal, Kerala, and also in other northern states when regular elections and greater autonomy to PRI will be given. So NGOs are very important in this regard, and that is why their role have come into scrutiny also, because they have also misused and exploited PRIs for their own benefits rather than creating an institutional structure. That is what we can see in a critical manner. So what we can say is that the magazines, as I was just talking about, what we have taken up is that policy debates. There are articles on decentralization, rural development, and evolving role of PRIs. We can always quote one or two articles if you make some notes. Participatory planning it also emphasizes. Expert opinions are there. We can just quote one line. Policymakers, administrators, academics to debate about it. From Kurukshetra magazine also we can take up some success stories. And as I just quoted West Bengal, Kerala, and Karnataka. Detailed analysis of government schemes and rural infrastructure is there from current affairs magazines. You can also take there and write some lines from your current affairs. And training programs, financial autonomy, and integration of women, as I just said, is very important. So takeaway is that both these magazines, they play a very vital role in shaping public discourse. You can always quote them also in exam. That is why I'm writing it here in that manner. So theoretical lens, what we can say, variation is there from the beginning, as we just said, selection, like successful model, Rajasthan treaty here, retention is there, 73rd Amendment, and then ecological context is very important, geography, socio-economic condition, political leadership, and then committees such as Balwant Rai Mehta Committee, Ashok Mehta Committee, GVK Rao, LM Singhvi, they act as an ideation mutations. They influence the direction also, and they also influence the pace of institutional change. So what we can say that baseline statistics, when we say till 1992, the number of villages, they are there around 6 lakh. More than 74% of population is rural. Number of PRIs in the pre 1992 era, it varied by states. And then poverty ratio, 38% in rural areas, 54.9 in 1973-74, declining by 36% by 93-94. Women representation is minimal, and there is irregular election in most of the states. So when you use such data in your answer and try to put a positive critical point, then definitely score will be there. So what is happening post 73 amendment? Women representation, over 1 million women were elected, constituting more than one third of the all representative. SC representation is there, financial devolution is there. So takeaway is that it dramatically increasing inclusivity and accountability, dramatically increasing. So challenges are there, problems are there, but the belief, the spirit is there. So critical assessment, when we do democratic decentralization, rural development, social inclusion, elite capture, which was there before 1992, it is going to slowly slow down. Bureaucratic control will remain, and dependency on state government also remains. Lack of regular election is a problem. Financial constraint is a problem. Gender barriers were supposed to be broken. Now that is why the concept of panchayat pati also came into picture. When the female is the leader actually, but then she is not coming in the front. It is actually the husband who is taking care of everything. That is what we have seen and learned through series like the series that came on Amazon, that is Prime Video, Panchayat. So Kerala and West Bengal, you can always quote. Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, we can quote when the change is there. Some when we speak about instability. So how pre-1992 development paved the way for future rural development, institutional learning, whatever we learned till 1992, that is going to be put there post 1992. We will discuss it separately. Political consensus, social mobilization, and policy integration. These four key words which are in the bold. I believe you are only going to write them in the examination. Everything else, when you revise this lecture number of times, then you are going to understand. It will be there in your muscle memory, helping you to grasp much more things. So policy formulation will be played by the role played by Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Capacity building is also going to be there, and data and evolution also is going to be there on that regard. So the key takeaway is that diverse state level experiments, institutional change through committees, bureaucracy and civil society playing dual roles, 73rd Amendment unified and constitutionalized PRIs, evolutionary constitutional mechanism went on to offer a powerful lens to understand dynamic and non-linear development is a very key word, and significant achievements are there, but challenges are also there, which we are going to talk separately. So what we can say finally, whatever I have summarized in the whole last 24 minutes is going to be summarized through Panchayati Raj evolution, Balwant Rai Mehta committee, decentralization is there and decline is there. Then Ashok Mehta and GVK Rao and LM Singhvi committee, 73rd Amendment, state election, bureaucracy, Yojana Kurukshetra magazines and newspapers. Even you can quote pre-1992 development framework and ongoing challenges. That is what we can say till 1992. So again, for your benefit, I have just given you here in a way where you can just without looking into the source, and you write down on your own when you say that pre-independence, what was happening, what was the key feature, and what were the consequences, or you can say the results. And that is how evolution of Panchayat Raj in India till 1992 we can discuss, and we can become more confident, more brave, more courageous, at the same time more humble, and appreciate our commitment to work smartly to get into civil services exam with confidence, clarity, and to serve the nation. This is what at UnSarkari we are striving to do, with confidence, clarity, and unwavering attitude. Thank you very much. Join our courses, work with us to get success.